All right, students, welcome to tutorial video 2. This one, we are going to actually manipulate text boxes. So if you have gone through the first tutorial going over navigation, please go ahead and get into your document, and yours should look very similar to mine. Okay, I'm going to clean up my tabs over here a little bit just because I know this is resource heavy. So take out your checklist also. This should have been printed out already because we're going to add some notes to that. We're going to add content. I'm going to give you the information that you need. And also get familiar with many of these shortcuts on here. Okay? And there will be a couple extra shortcuts that I will add in this video, so if you're paying attention, you'll get some pro tips on how to manipulate Windows and Macs. So here we go. I'm in here. So for this video, we're going to manipulate text boxes, and that's one of the most important things when it relates to content on an actual newspaper, digital newspaper. We need the stories in here. So to do that, I'm going to go over to T here. Okay. What I would recommend is making sure that you are filling out your checklist toolbar as I'm talking about it. Okay. One good thing about Joomag is if you put your mouse over any of these icons, it tells you what the tool is. So I'm going to go to the T for text. When I click it, it's going to create a random one, okay? And I can move it around, manipulate it, things like that. And just like it says double click to add text. So right now, I'm moving it and manipulating the text box. When I double click in it, I'm starting to access edit mode in the text box. And you'll notice over here, you're in edit mode anytime you see that you can change the fonts and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and add some actual text. Right now, I don't want to type in 500 words or something. So if you go back to Schoology, notice that I gave you a link to the random text generator. Click on that and it'll look something like this. So we're going to create random text and kind of put a random feature story in it. Most feature stories that we're going to write in this class are going to be about 700 words. So click some dummy text. It doesn't matter which one you pick here. Some of it will be Latin. I picked a far, far away because it actually sounds like a story. For the number of words, I'm going to go ahead and put 700. Now, 700 seems like a lot, but notice, okay, it shows up here. And I'm going to switch it to 5 paragraphs. So I want 700 words, 5 paragraphs, far, far away dummy text. Take a moment to go ahead and select those. Pause the video if needed. And it creates the dummy text here. I'm going to select all, so it selects it all. Okay. You can also just click and drag and highlight like that if you want, but I'm going to hit select all and copy to clipboard. There it is. So it's ready for me to paste in here. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go back to edit, double click to edit. So let me erase that, double click to edit. And I'm going to hit Control V to paste. Some of you know it as right click, but in Joomag you won't be able to right click, okay, depending on the mode you're in. So I'm going to hit Control V to paste, and there it is. So let me click out of the box and move it around. Notice though, my text does not show all of it, so I'm going to expand this box. Okay, let's expand that box a little. All right, it's starting to show. I notice that my page is still not fully realized, and that's because even if I expand it all the way to the bottom, this text box has too much text in it because our size is too big. So here's how I'm going to go ahead and edit it. Let's double click in here, and I need to edit the size and make sure it looks more appropriate, because if you look over here, it's 24 point right now. I want that smaller. I want it to be proper. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control A while I'm in edit mode to select all my text. Control A is select all command. So that's something you can add right here to the keyboard shortcuts. Control A means select all. I intentionally left it out here, so if you're watching the video, you'll get that command. Control A, select all. So I controlled A here. I'll do that again, and it selects it, even the text that is hidden at the bottom. And I'm going to go over here. The default font is Aller, which is fine. That's what we use. But the default size is 9. So I'm going to erase 24 and make 9 and hit enter. That's our text box. And you can see it shrinks and it looks tiny, but it's okay because when we print it, it turns into a nice big document. So once again, I'm going to repeat that. Aller 9-point font, go ahead and do that. If you go into your checklist also, it says right here, things to know. Our default font is Aller, so you can add that to your notes now. And our story content font size is 9. Okay, all story content is 9. So let's go back into our document, and I'm going to zoom in a little because, all right, notice that I need to manipulate this. Let's move our text box so it looks a little bit more proper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up with the bottom here. I'm going to stretch it across. I don't want a lot of white space right here, so I'm going to kind of slightly move it until it looks pretty good. There we go. Nice little wall of text. And just because I'm picky, which you should be too, when you zoom in and out, notice that it doesn't snap to the corners, but you want it inside the actual page boundary. So what I would recommend is zooming in and just kind of slowly adjusting this just so there's a little bit of buffer between it. If you look at mine, and I'm going to zoom in as close as I can without being too close, notice that I have a little bit of space on the bottom and the sides to ensure that it doesn't go off the page. All right, so pause this video if needed and get your page to look like this, because now we're going to do one more command that relates to this. Okay. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go back into edit mode, double click this and select all, Control A. And this right here is going to be one of our most important formatting tools. It looks like 3 columns because it is columns. It's called number of columns. It's set to 1 column, but watch what happens when I change it. Here's 2 columns, 3 columns, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm actually going to set it to 6 columns because that looks like a newspaper article. Next to it, you're going to see what's called the gutter, and you can change the spacing between the columns. My recommendation is to leave it at 12. It's all right to leave it at 12. Okay, so I'm going to click out, and there it is. It's in nice 6 columns, but there's too much white space over here. So what I'm going to do is shrink my text box, and you'll notice that it kind of autofills. So let's shrink it. Oh, too much because some of my text disappeared. So I'm going to shrink it just so it's got a little bit. There it goes, and that's perfect. So I do have to, when you start shrinking and stuff, double check your text boxes isn't over spilling into the actual outside of the page. So at this point, okay, pause the video if needed and get your page to look like this, and then hit save. Okay, get your text box with 6 columns. All right, we're gonna go ahead and add one more text box here, and I'm going to go ahead and call it my name. So this would be a headline. A headline, okay, is something that we put on for basically the title of every text or column. So I'm going to just put my name. You're going to do that yourself, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and set it to 36, okay? Nice and big. So going back to the checklist, okay, it says headline font size is between 24 and 36. Okay? Usually I like to use, you got to base it on your page, so sometimes 24 looks good, sometimes 36 looks better. So between 24 and 36 is appropriate. I'm going to set mine to 36. And after that, let's go ahead and shrink this down, okay, and put it right here. Okay? And that's going to be my headline. I do notice that my column text box is a little off the page, so I'm going to be picky and adjust it just slightly. So there we go. So you can move this. It's okay if, notice that my blue box is overlapping this text box. As long as the text isn't overlapping, it's okay. You can shrink this a little bit more, but if you shrink it too much, notice it disappears. So I'm going to just slightly increase it until it shows again. There we go. So for the purposes of this video, go ahead and get your document to look like mine, okay? Hit save, and that concludes the text tutorial. So let me zoom out here, and after this tutorial, your document should look very similar to mine, okay? So at any point, repeat this, okay? Or reach out to me if you have questions, okay? Move on to the next tutorial when we add pictures and slideshows once you have completed this and got it to this point.